everyone. So I have another bad author take. Now this is it's definitely more of a newer author. They're an indie author. So they decided to publish this book. So I'll go and show you the cover. So when you see the cover, you know, An Unexpected Game, They Pause to Meet, by Ava Danielle. The cover, to me, you know, as a romance reader, it screams romance, just based on the cover. Also, I'll read you the synopsis. Sounds very much like a romance, you know, genre romance. So it says, book overview. After finding her boyfriend in bed with another woman, Natalie Bowman swears off love. Heartbroken, she moves to the city to start fresh and leave her old life behind. Several years later, she's still trying to get past the heartbreak. She spends most of her days working or hanging out with friends, but something is still missing. The moment she gets her game controller in her hands, everything else fades away, and she immerses herself in a fantasy world with her online friend, Storm. After talking for so long, they finally decide to meet in person. Natalie's excited and nervous, but when they do, Storm turns out to be someone she never expected to see. When he convinces her to give him a second chance, she lets down her walls and learns to love again. But when tragedy strikes, Natalie wonders if love is even worth all the pain. Now, when I read that synopsis, it does not claim to be a tragedy or anything like that. It sounds like a romance. When I listen to it, when I look at the cover, it screams romance. This is all based on your marketing, you know, that type of thing. So she decided to do several messages trying to defend herself and also saying nasty things about reviewers. So this had first come up, it first sprang up on Facebook. So people heard about this on Facebook, and then it went over to Threads. So I managed to get a couple of messages before she deleted everything, but I should have screenshot. I should know by now that a lot of times people delete, so I should have screenshot what she said. So one of the things she said, but really I'm getting negative comments and a bad review, not because of the story itself, but because of what I labeled the categories as. I myself consider it romance. I would buy it in the romance section of the store. I wrote the story, so I should know what it involves. And just because it doesn't quite have that HEA the way people want it, doesn't mean it's not an HEA. Finding yourself and making your own HEA as the character is an HEA if you read the book correctly. So, okay. 1. The way she's explaining it, that's not genre romance, that's women's fiction. Or that is a romantic tragedy. If it does not have an HEA or an HFN at the end, then it's not a genre romance. Period. End of story. The second thing she says is if you read the book correctly, so you're stating that the people who read your book are dumb. No, we don't do that. We don't do that. You did not properly market your book. That's why you're getting backlash. So that was her one message I managed to get because some of her other ones got deleted. The other one, I had took a screenshot of her page, her author page, when this first started going down. And I was like, what's this? So it shows her author page right here. It says Ava Danielle. And so author, reader, wife, mom, Oma, whatever that is. And so one of her first ones is like, you know, it has something to do with like different things. But when you scroll down and you see this other one, she says, I can't comment to everyone. My book is under tragedy. It's under women's fiction, under romance, under heartbreak. I mean, it's in all of the categories. No. What more do you need? Want me to spoil the entire book? There are books out there called love stories. You know, there are things that are called love stories, but it's not guaranteed an HEA. That's not under genre romance. Genre romance has a guaranteed HEA. You know, either the couple, HEA is basically stands for like, you know, it stands for happily ever after, but mainly HEAs a lot of times have to do with like a lot of historicals or other books where the couple, you see like the prologue or the epilogue, you see the epilogue where the couple's together and they have children. That's more of a happily ever after because you've seen like the culmination of, you know, now they have children, they have spawned, you know, where happy for now is basically like they're happy and they're in love, but maybe they're not married, or maybe they're, you know, maybe they didn't have kids or they don't want kids, that type of thing. That's more of a happy for now. So if your book doesn't have either one of those things, then it's not a genre romance. It's just, that's flat out, that's how the genre is. If you want a happily ever after, if you want a happy ending, you will get that happy ending with a genre romance book, no matter what subgenre you're reading from. Whether you're reading from historical, you're reading from fantasy romance, you're reading from contemporary romance, you're reading from paranormal romance, you will always get that guaranteed HEA, even if it's not in the first book. If, say, like the first book doesn't have that HEA, eventually when it, you know, throughout the series, like especially if it's the same couple in the series, they will eventually get their HEA at the end of the book, you know? So this is why you still would classify those books, even if it's like two-parter, like if it's a duet or if it's a trilogy or if it's a series, and the end has it to where they get together, it's still considered a genre romance. So, I read her book. I will, you know, I went and read it. It was through KU. So I was like, all right, let me go and read it. It was only 3 hours long. And I'm like, let me get through it. So I will tell you my review of it at the end. So, like I said, you cannot multi-classification, you know, multi-categorize, your books when it comes to certain things. You could say that it's a fantasy romance and maybe like a time travel romance. You could say that's another category you could say, because those are like the subplots in the book. Like, say if it's a time travel, like, so like for me, I would not classify, I already told somebody, I would not classify Outlander as a genre romance because it isn't. It is I would say it's historical fiction or romantic fiction. Like, romantic fictions can be different than genre romance. So if you say something's contemporary romance, that has to have a happily ever after. If you say something's historical romance, it has to have a happily ever after. You could say it's a romantic tragedy. That is not considered a romance. So I would categorize her book, since I read it, I would categorize it as a romantic tragedy and also sprinklings of a women's fiction, because it's basically her journey. So it's not a genre romance. You know, it has a sad ending. The main male character dies at the end. So it's not a romance. So let me go and see if I have everything. Okay, so this one person, I think they sell books. So they had said definitions to counter the hot takes. Bookish false advertising. And I do feel like this is bookish false advertising. So it says readers and author's customer. It says genres, a taxonomy. I think that's how you pronounce it. A taxonomy that tells readers what they are getting into. It's very rare to want a ticket without knowing if it's for a merry-go-round or the Death Claw 5000. Conventions, differentiators that determine which genre a piece of literature is in, expectations, unwritten rules of a genre, subvertible. False advertising is deceiving your customers, e.g. saying your non-HEA book is romance. Subverting genre expectations can be a fun way to stand out within its confines. The first author to use the age gap trope with an older woman instead of an older man was really doing something. The first author to do Through the Looking Glass, but the character starts in the AU, was also really doing something. See also the now outdated terminology reverse tropes. A lot of people don't want to use the term reverse harem. I guess it has like bad historical connotations. I don't know. But you use white shoes now instead of reverse harem. Because before it was like harem, and usually harem has to do with a male with multiple women. Reverse harem has to do with a woman with multiple men. But like I said, they don't want to use that label anymore. So now they go with white shoes. So that's what they mean by the outdated terminology. So it says, but subverting genre conventions just means that your book is no longer in the genre. Yeah. Marketing your book as part of the wrong genre is not cutesy, it is lying. Complaining that readers of the genre are being mean to you because they won't read your book after someone tells them the truth is not you being victimized, it is you doubling down. Killing off an MC at the end of your book is fine. That happens in a lot of fiction. Still calling that a romance, happy for now, is not you doing something unexpected. It is false advertising. I agree. It's also transparent disrespect. Other genres have similar conventions to the HEA, HFN requirement in romance. In a murder mystery, there has to be a murder and the murder has to be solved. Horror has to be scary, creepy, unsettling. Cozy fantasy has to be cozy. But those genres seem to have their basic conventions respected. No one ever goes at horror claiming that telling readers the book is scary is a spoiler, or gets mad at murder mystery books because they know the mystery will be solved. But romance, they'll attack romance. It's always romance targeted for the shit take that you can ignore how the taxonomy works and still market your book using the categories. 2 reasons. The first, as always, is money. Romance is the best-selling genre, end of. Everyone wants the romance tag because it's where the most sales are. But in seeming contradiction, it is also a stigmatized genre. Historically, it has been the one supporting women and marginalized communities the most. So the books get called trash. They're corn, smut, silly, pointless because you know how it ends. Bullshit. There is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to know what a ride will end safely before you get on it. Good romance writers are still perfectly capable of ripping our hearts out in the 3rd act, despite us knowing that it's going to end happily. Oh yes, for sure. If you can't do that, that's on your skill as an author, not on the romance readers you are desperately marketing to by lying to them. Because that's what's really happening here. Swarmy, sleazy marketing. You saw the opportunity to stir up controversy about your book by lying to romance readers and then playing the victim when you got called out on it by the actual victims of your false advertising. Clearly because you don't think your book will stand out and make the same sales levels in the correct genre, romantic tragedy. Correct. You want the romance tag, but you don't want to write romance, so you lie. Gross. Also unoriginal. What you're doing isn't new. When I joined Threads, it was the hot take of the week every few weeks. Each one of those authors learned largely through low sales and lower ratings. What you've done is lose the trust of readers from the romance genre. This behavior will get you on more shit lists in romance than there are people who enjoy your not like other romance authors bullshit. All you are doing is shitting on the table you are trying to eat at. Maybe stop. For sure. So they also had said, yes, this is in response to a particular author's post this week who was whining that readers were being so mean and refusing to reading her book because they didn't like the ending. Literally blaming the person who said, hey, this isn't romance for spoiling her book ending. Romance readers were refusing to read a book that is not a romance because they wanted a romance. And I'm still mad at the way she rewrote history. So this one person's had responded to the other person. It said, do not market your fucking romantic tragedy as a romance. I lost my husband at 32. Lying about your genre and ending as a tragedy tosses me right back to that when I'm expecting an HEA or HFN. Romances end in an HEA or an HFN. If I pick up your tragedy If I pick your tragedy up expecting romance and the MC ends up in a romantic tragedy, losing the person they love, I will blacklist you and be loud as fuck about it. Rest in peace, rip my heart out of the way there. Give me all the feels, that's fine, but the end is right. Yeah, it's true. I have read romance books where I'm like, it has broken my heart to see a couple. You like, if I go and I read, like, first time I read Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas, that fucking book gutted me. You know, at the beginning of Aline and McKenna and their young love, and have it be ripped apart, and her having to tell McKenna that she doesn't love him and see him walk away. Oh my God. It gutted me the first time I read that. I read the first few chapters, I was fucking bawling my eyes out. And I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But I knew at the end they were going to be together. But it's the journey of the couple and all of the obstacles they have to face. That's what makes the romance good, is because you see all of the struggles that they go through until they get their happily ever after. And that's what makes the book good, is the journey it takes, seeing the struggle and the heartbreak of this character loving this person so much that they love this person they cannot get over them. 10 years, 12 years goes by and they still love this person the same way they loved them 12 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever have you. They never got over that person. That's why at the end of Again the Magic, if you've read the book, he's telling her every woman he was with, he wished it was her. Trying to conjure her up in his head with these other women, and you could hear her heartbreak while she's crying, and he's telling her this, all of these things that he tried to do to forget her, but nothing worked. The only thing that worked was coming back and trying to get revenge, for what she did to him, and finding out the reason of why she did it. That culmination of that story, this is why it's still my favorite. It's still my favorite. Like, it was a beginner book for me when it came to historical romance, and it's still a favorite of mine. Even though there might be things that I could say were problematic, or I could say the heroine is annoying in certain things, but I still fucking love that story, So, another person's like, HEA, HFN requirements for romance has been around since the 90s, probably even earlier than that. If you want to cash in on the romance genre without caring about the readers of that genre, you're going to cause issues. Don't blame the readers. That will never help you. Another person's like, you can believe what you want about the HEA, HFN discussion on the genre of romance, but that will never change what the market wants. Ultimately, our writing is a product, and if you don't give the market what it expects, it's not going to go well for you. I like this one here. This is a question I'm happy to answer. Why do we viciously defend the HEA as a necessary component of romance? First, when a reader picks up a romance, they know they're getting a guaranteed happy ending. It's hope. A chance to escape into a world where everything ends on a high note. A promise that your time is valued by giving you what you signed up for. It is protecting and respecting readers. Second, it's respecting those who came before. The authors who fought ridicule, dismissiveness of their art, accusations of being porn peddlers, of being unoriginal, uninspired, cookie cutter, bottom of the barrel, bored housewives, despite being the bread and butter that kept an entire industry that would have otherwise collapsed under its own pretension afloat. Third, coming into the romance genre and demanding your sad end is the equivalent of walking into someone else's house, spitting on the owner, painting the walls a color you like, and then asking why they're so mad. If you don't read romance, this isn't your house. Kindly see yourself to the door. The reason why this becomes discourse when it could just be ignored is because hope is always worth fighting for and worth protecting. Letting romance doesn't need an HEA go without comment, allows it to slowly fester, to become accepted. And as a reader whose life was saved by the hopeful escape I found in romance when I needed it most, you can pry the HEA from my cold dead hands. 100%. 100%. There seems to be a lot of writers who don't realize that genres help readers find books that will give them the emotional experience they want to have. A reader doesn't choose a horror because they want cute and fluffy and sweet. The same as a reader doesn't choose romance if they want to read about loving someone and having them die tragically. It doesn't make the reader wrong for what they want. Genres help readers have the experiences they're hoping to have. 100%. It's almost like marketing your book as a fantasy, then within the book disproving anything magical and with a real-world explanation. Then when fantasy readers are like, but this isn't fantasy, saying it is fantasy, you just don't like being surprised by the twist that there's no magic. It's true. So true. Oh, you wanted fantasy? Sorry. Come on. So this one person's like, I was going to leave the HEA, I don't know what she meant, like rolling horse, I don't know, alone with my one post, but it's still bugging me. So why this matters so much, why I feel the need to bang on this drum. 2 years ago, I almost became a widow. My husband was very sick, and what kept me going during that time was romance books. Saved my sanity, kept me hopeful. If I'd picked up a romance where the hero died at the end, it would have destroyed me. I was an inch away from shattering. That would have done me in. Don't lie to your readers. So I had responded to them. And I said, I continue to read romance novels because real life doesn't guarantee us an HEA. I have gone through deep depression over the years, and reading romance has helped me. When I was in a mentally abusive relationship, reading romance helped me keep hope alive that I can one day find someone better, and I did. And this is true. The only thing that had kept me going, besides my children when I was with my ex, was reading romances. And that kept hope alive to where I'm like, I know I deserve better. I know I deserve better. I know I can get better than what I currently have. So when, I had that chance of like separation with my ex, I took it. And I was like, I'm not going back. Even though he was like, oh, it was a temporary separation. And I was like, no, we're over. We're done. I'm tired. So from there, I was like, I know I deserve better. And I know that I knew my ex was not going to do the job that he was supposed to do of being a father. I knew he was going to fuck up, because that's pretty much what he was doing when, I was taking on all the responsibility of raising my daughters, and he barely did anything to help. So I knew, he was not going to be around to raise them. And also, like, I suspected that he wasn't going to have a long life based on, he had a lot of vices, like, he smoked all the time. He drank a lot. He even had a doctor that told him, like, you're getting cirrhosis of the liver if you keep drinking alcohol straight, like nothing to like water it down, like no orange juice or cranberry juice or whatever it is to kind of help with the, the proof. You're going to die. A doctor even told him. So I believe he slowly went back to drinking and self-deleted. I think he did that. I think he was at a stage in his life where he wasn't happy. He was probably deeply depressed. He didn't want to admit he was depressed, but I think he was deeply depressed. He didn't like the way his life was going. He could have did things to change it, but he chose to be lazy and not do anything. And ultimately, that's what did him in. Is that he had a stroke and he died. So he lived very selfishly. And so I'd say I have a relief that he's not around, because I don't think that he would have taught my daughters anything good, so I have a sense of relief that he's not here on this planet anymore. But I also have a sense of like, I felt pity for him because he could have changed his life around and could have did so much better for himself. And I think if he switched his life around, that he could have got himself a woman who treated him the way he wanted them to be treated, wanted himself to be treated. I don't know. He basically wanted a woman to work 40 hours a day and then come home and take care of the house and kids. That's basically what he wanted. He wanted like Wonder Woman who could do everything. And then he comes home and sits on his ass. That's basically what he wanted to do. I'd say he had definitely a bit of chauvinistic qualities to him. And so, he I feel like he self-deleted, and I got myself a person who treats my daughters like they are his own. And, I have a husband, and, he respects me and respects my children and respects my choices, whatever choices those are. And I have a helpmate, that will help me throughout my life. And that's what I hoped for. And that's what I got. So romances kept me with that positivity, with that optimism that I can, I deserve better. I will get better type of thing. Romances helped me in that way. They kept me sane. They kept me, keep going, because I was at the end of his and I, our relationship. I was deeply depressed. I was definitely still going through like postpartum depression, and I had it with both of my children. I had postpartum depression, and it was undiagnosed, but I knew what it was, based on the fact that I had depression before, children. So I knew the signs, and he didn't help. It was all on me to do everything. And I honestly don't know how I stayed sane during those times, and I had a lot of anxiety, really bad anxiety. And so romance has really kept me going. And, even before that, like, my early 20s, I had like, was going through like deep depression because I was unemployed and I was having trouble finding work. And then, I was depressed like during like the recession. There was a recession around like, what was it, 2008 or so, and trying to find work. And, when you keep putting applications in, you're not getting anywhere. So, I was depressed during that too. So romances have kept me, like going and optimistic and positive. They've kept me going, where if I didn't have them, I don't know where I would be without them. I honestly don't. Romance keeps hope alive. It really does. It really, like maybe you don't want this relationship here in this romance, but you want something maybe similar, that type of thing. So that's what romances do for me. And I know they probably do for other people too, So this person had, one person had said, someone whose upset readers don't like that she unalived an MC in her romance book. And so this person said, for people wondering why we are having the HEA romance discussion again, because it's like frequent, and it's like, oh my God, here we go again. So this one person's like, the hill I will die on is the romance genre must have an HEA between the couple and book is about. That's the entire genre, people. Don't want the couple together, want to focus on the friend group more than the romance. That's women's fiction. I didn't make the rules, but I do follow them. One person's like, imagine you went to a place marketed as a hardware store because you really needed a hammer. Then when you get there, it's a bakery. That's the level of irritation some of us feel when you label your book a romance, then there's no HEA. One person's like, I'm not going to fight the whole genre as one rule thing because it's tired and it's literally a genre convention. Like, we're tired, y'all. Get raked over the coals if that's what you want to do by being edgy and letting the internal misogyny fly. I don't care. But saying that your book is better than romance because the guy doesn't have to save the girl. That was one of her things too, that the author had stated, and she deleted it, so I wasn't able to get the screenshot, is she had said, oh, well, the heroine doesn't need to be saved by a man. And it's like, let me finish this one. So, tell me you've never read a romance book without telling me you never read a damn romance. I would say that's a stereotype, is saying that all heroines are like the damsels in distress and they need the hero to rescue them. That is a stereotype for romance. Not all of them have that. I will say that there are some romances I come across that I do feel like the woman is pretty much portraying a victim status all the time and the hero has to constantly save her. Those are definitely the damsels in distress. But I'd say the majority of the romances I've read, no, that's not the case. You know, you could still have a strong female character where she doesn't put the man down, where she shows her vulnerabilities, because that to me is still a strength. You know, you may tell people your strengths and your weaknesses, but to me it's like, even when you say what your weaknesses are, you're willing to admit them. That to me is still a strength. You know, you're willing to admit your faults, admit what you're weakest at, you know. That to me still is a strength in itself, because you're willing to state that. Where there are a lot of people out there who don't want to admit they're wrong, do not want to admit that they have any faults or any weaknesses. They don't want to admit that. They're too pig-headed, you know, they're too like narcissistic. So, for me, I'm like, I still consider it a bit of a strength, because you're willing to admit that you're either wrong or you know, you don't have a strength in this particular thing, you know? So for me, like, you can find a good, strong female heroine in a romance novel and she still finds happily ever after, you know? All of the heroines don't need to be weak in order to make the hero look strong. I mean, it doesn't need to be, you know, it doesn't need to be. So, I mean, there's so many romances I've come across where I felt like the heroine was a strong female, but she still needed the love of that man, you know, or the love of a woman, or love of a man loving another man. I mean, you still need somebody. No matter how strong of a mind you are or how strong physically you are, you still need somebody who is mentally and physically there for you. You know, your partner, your helpmate. Everyone wants that or needs that. That doesn't show weakness. You know, it doesn't show weakness. I don't understand what this person's rhetoric is, you know, what their understanding is. It just makes me think like they honestly don't know what romance is, you know? So the one person's like, the only people who are arguing that a romance doesn't need an HEA, HFN are authors who want to write it that way, but don't want to market it as women's fiction. I read romance because I want the HEA. If it doesn't have it, you are lying and manipulating people into reading something and then complaining when they give a bad review because you lied. If it's a duet or trilogy that ends in a cliffhanger, let the reader know. I throw my readers off a cliff quite often, but I warn them right in the blurb and in an author's note, yes, so they know about, no, book one won't be their HEA, but it's coming. Then people can decide if they want to wait to read it all together when both books are out. Reading is an escape for so many. Don't take away that escape in the name of being creative. It's not creative, it's manipulative. Oh, 100%. 100%. So this one person's like, shut up. Everyone shut up. Romance needs an HEA. This is not a debate. So this one person's like, seeing all the discourse around if romance books have an HEA and thinking about how if I picked up a book that was marketed as romance that did not have an HEA, I would riot. I would be so angry. Oh yeah. The guarantee of an HEA is why I love romance. To me, it feels like an author trying to piggyback on the popularity of the romance genre when they aren't actually a romance author. So another person's like, I'll put my characters through hell and back, but they will always get an HEA. When you choose to publish in the romance genre, that is the promise you're making the reader. So another person's like, sitting upstairs reading the romance genre discourse. Husband reads R.A. Salvatore and Warhammer books. So I yelled from my room, what's the basic rule for romance books? Without pause in the middle of his game, they have a happy ending. Why? He doesn't even read romances, and he knows this. And I don't gush to this man about my books a ton. He knows titles, usually, and if I hyperfixate on a series, but other than that, he's clueless. Don't lie to your readers, it's gross. So one person's like, I have to break the primary rule of the genre I'm attempting to publish in order to deliver something my readers won't expect. Is not the flex, these not like other romance authors think it is. Today's blocking spree. People still arguing that HEA, HFN are not a requirement of the romance genre, especially if you wrote a book, called it a romance even though the MC dies at the end, and are now salty because reviews are calling you out. That this is what they mean by fuck around and find out. So it says posted not available on my thing. It's because the person deleted their thing, and that's why I said I needed to screenshot it before it got deleted. So I had responded to the person, the original author, and I said, if the book is about the woman's journey and her finding happiness within herself or her life, then that is a women's fiction and not a genre romance. Genre romance equals happily ever after / happy for now with a couple. Book marketing is so important to 1, find your proper audience for that book. 2, not getting the wrong readership who will leave you negative reviews because you didn't categorize your book properly. So, I went and screenshot her book on Goodreads, and as you can see, it says it has a 2.73, so it means most people are not happy with it. Has 11 ratings, 7 reviews. I will say now it has 12 ratings, 8 reviews because I did read the book. So one person says, self-note, MC Death, I will not read. I have not read this book, and thankfully they did not go and put a star rating on it. I appreciate when people don't do that, when people, don't put stars on there, especially if they haven't read the book. Per some reviews on Facebook, there's a main character that dies. I don't do books that I get invested in the character that dies. I need my HEAs, and if it doesn't have that, then I'm out before I start. Another person said, not a romance I like, and completely wasted my time with this book. The ending completely ruined the story. Oh, another person said, this is a romantic tragedy, not a romance, 100%. One of the main characters dies at the end. The author is claiming that this is a happy for now ending. And while it is for the female main character because she heals and moves on, it's not for the couple and therefore isn't a romance. It seems like the author is going to have a sequel / follow-up that's actually a romance, though. Although I don't know how much I trust their judgment of what is and isn't a romance anymore, but that doesn't change the fact that this one isn't. It goes against the biggest rule in romance of an HEA and HFN for everyone in the relationship. If this book had been labeled properly, I wouldn't be as ticked, but I'd probably still only give it 1 to 2 stars because the writing is trash. There's an editor credited at the beginning, and I generally don't understand how because it hasn't been edited. I will say, I did feel like there were some sentence structure that I felt like was not up to the cuffed of like what a good writer is. I definitely feel like this is very immature writing. There are other authors I've read that were very better with like plot, with pacing, with character development, all the different stuff, especially like the way they write. Like I said, there's certain sentence structures that I didn't care for, like when a person's saying, like there was one that had said like, guess we're off or something like that. Guess we're off. It was guess WE''RE, or no, I think it was guess we're going. And I'm like, I wouldn't have put it that way. I would have said, I guess we're going. I guess we are going, or I guess we're going. I wouldn't have said, guess we're going. I thought it was weird. I had to go over it a couple times where I'm like, oh, okay, that's what she meant. All right. I don't know. I would have added in like, I guess we're going. It would have sounded better to me. And there was a couple of other things that I was like, I don't like the way that sounds. It was very strange. So I definitely think this author needed if it was edited, she needed a better editor for this. So another person had said, this isn't a romance novel. Romance novels have HEAs. She isn't subverting the genre. She's putting it in the wrong genre. People that sign up to read this expecting an HEA because the author says it's a romance deserve to know that it isn't a romance novel. Let me find the other one. I had a thing on Amazon where it actually shows the labels. Right here, it says product details. So this came out on August 14th of 2024. So it shows the Amazon.com sales rank. So it says number 15 in tragic drama and plays. I wouldn't consider this a play. I would say it's a tragic romantic tragedy. Tragic drama. Okay. The other one is like number 399 in dramas and plays, and number 4,918 in contemporary romance fiction. I don't consider it contemporary romance fiction. So that is in the wrong place. I definitely would say that this is what they have the category now on Amazon. It's like women's domestic life fiction. I would say it should be under women's domestic life fiction. And then the other one would be romantic tragedy, or whatever, tragedy, romance, whatever they consider it. But I'd say romantic tragedy. That's what I would put it under if you were to market it. You're going to find a better market. Your marketing is going to be better if you market it that way. You're going to find your audience that way, because there are some people who don't want to read happily ever after, but they will read like a romance. There is sex on page. I would say it's not overly descriptive, but there is sex on page on it. So if you're not interested in sex on page, then you wouldn't like this. So the other thing I noticed on her Amazon reviews, she reviewed the book herself, which I think is really fucking weird. That to me shows that the desperation that this author is trying to get like this 5 stars. No. So it says right here, I screenshot it, Ava Danielle, 5 stars, unexpected ending. You cannot call a romance an unexpected ending if it ends in tragedy. That's not the proper label. There are some romances I read where they do have an unexpected ending, but they still have a happily ever after. There's no happily ever after in this. So she has like these little micro tropes that, she showed a picture where it says gamers, new beginnings, New York City, things like that. Yes, heartbreaking and unexpected. You have to say no HEA, tragic ending. That's what you have to say. So I just thought it was really stupid that she decided to review the book herself. So, since I got through all of that, oh yeah, there are a few other ones, but I won't go over those. I'll just go over my review. So, let me go into my thing. Where is it? Where are you? Oh, come on. Where is it? I just did it too. And it's not here. It's not here. Damn it. Anyways, I'll have to do it from memory. Since I can't find it on here. Wait, no. Hang on. I did do a Goodreads review. Okay. I use my notes app first, and then I copy and paste it onto my Goodreads. So this here, I'll just go into my Goodreads. I went and put it on my Goodreads. So, come on, Goodreads. Don't play games with me. Come on. I hate you. I hate you. I gotta go. Like, sometimes my iPad has it to where it's not getting a signal, so I have to like redo my Wi-Fi, you know, turn off and on my Wi-Fi and all that shit. And then I have to go into my VPN and like redo it. So sometimes when I do that, it connects back in, and it's a pain in the ass. Especially when I want to do something and it's not working for me. Come on, Goodreads. There we go. Okay, so I went into, okay, here is my book review of this book. I gave it 3 stars. I, you know, don't want to be mean to the author. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was decent, but it's not great. So the characters are Natalie. She goes by @Nova11 on her video games. And Neil, it's @Storm325. So I said, content warning: from the book cover and synopsis, this sounds and looks like a genre romance. It is not. This is a romantic tragedy. Her main love interest dies at the end. It would have been nice if the author claimed that in the synopsis. I knew this based on the criticism she was getting on Threads. Also, she deleted her posts trying to defend herself and bashing reviewers for the low ratings. I wanted to read the story so I could form my own opinion. So the characters are Natalie and Neil. I don't know why I put that twice. I'm gonna have to adjust that. So Natalie lives in an apartment complex, and every Friday she hangs out with her neighbors for game night. Her neighbor Tyler is attracted to her and teases and flirts with her. One day she runs into her ex-boyfriend Neil, and she's upset because she hasn't seen him in years, ever since he cheated on her with one of his coworkers. In the meantime, she's been having conversations online in a gamer room with a guy named Storm325. They flirt with each other and eventually talk on the phone, but his headset sounds a bit staticky, so she doesn't, you know, it's like she doesn't recognize the voice. She goes on a sort of date with Tyler, and when she notices Neil again on the street staring at her, she kisses Tyler to get back at Neil. Storm325 and her decide to go on a date, and what do you know? The guy who sees her, but she doesn't see him, is Neil. So Storm is Neil. What are the fucking chances of that? He didn't realize that Nova11 is his ex-girlfriend Natalie. He says that he never got to explain what happened when he cheated on her. He still loves her and ends up texting her an excuse, but he wants to make it up to her with another date. Like, he basically ghosted her, but he told her, like, you know, after he saw her and confirmed, like, oh my God, that's my ex that I've been talking with, he basically makes an excuse like, oh, he's stuck at work and can we, you know, do it again type of thing. Can we meet up again? So Neil meets Natalie at the Alice in Wonderland statue at Central Park. When she discovers that Neil is Storm, she's upset, but after they talk, she agrees to talk to him some more. He asks her out on a date and they get to know each other again. I just felt like she forgave him way too quickly, you know? Then they start having sex again and get back together. Tyler is upset about her and Neil, but he eventually gets over it. 3 months go by and they decide to move back in with each other, and they decide to buy a house. Her friend gets married, and then moving day comes, and this is the spoiler. Neil goes in an Uber, and then it shows his POV lying on the ground, dying. So obviously he had a car accident. He passes away, and now Natalie has to move on with her life without him. So I said, things I had issues with. Number 1, this author claimed that this was a tragedy, a romance, and a women's fiction. I would say this book was definitely more of a romantic tragedy with sprinkles of women's fiction. Definitely not in the romance genre, because the romance genre always has an HEA-HFN. 2, Natalie forgave Neil way too easily, and his excuse for cheating on her was lame. His excuse was he had to sleep with the boss's daughter in order to go and get a promotion where he was like partner or something like that in the company he worked for. And I was like, are you kidding me? You know, like, wouldn't you go to the papers and say like, hey, this company is like trying to sexually extort me, you know, to have me sleep with the boss's daughter? Wouldn't you want to go to the newspaper with that? Wouldn't you want to go and like talk to the Better Business Bureau about it? Why would you sleep with the boss's daughter in order to get a promotion? That is some lame sauce right there. That is so lame. 3, I didn't like how I felt like Natalie played mind games with Tyler, especially because she kissed him and led the poor dude on, so I understood why he got upset. Like, once he finds out her and Neil are back together, Tyler's upset, and then he didn't talk to her for like how many days, and then finally he was like, he decided, oh, you know, I'm sorry, you know, I hope you guys work out and all that stuff. And I honestly would have rather have seen her go with Tyler, you know? Honestly, I thought like her and Tyler would have been better off, you know, than her going back with her ex. I don't know. It's like, okay. I didn't like, yeah, I felt like she played mind games with Tyler. So I understood why he got upset. I said the plot of the mystery of who was Storm 325 was predictable to me. I figured that it would have been either Tyler or Neil. The author should give the heroine an HEA with Tyler. Honestly, like, yeah, if she's going to do a secondary book, have her end up with Tyler. Maybe have it like be like a few years later, you know, she's getting, you know, moving on with her life, you know, after Neil, and, you know, have it to where she, you know, she's still hanging out with Tyler, but maybe like things shift for them and they start to feel things, and have it to be a romance, because I'm like, this woman gets together, like Neil was like the love of her life. They were dating since they were like basically kids, you know, from like high school, and then throughout college they still were like dealing with like a long-term relationship, but they still were together. So they were with each other for how many years, and then he still loved her, she still had feelings for him. So it was kind of like that was her love, you know, that was her person she wanted to be with for the rest of her life, and then he died. So I'm like, wouldn't it make sense? It would have made more sense if the author had it to where this book had it to where it was like a second chance for her of finding a love. It would have been better off if she would have had it to where it shows the beginning of her and Neil's relationship, you know, maybe like he never cheated, and had it to where, you know, they were with each other for how many years, and then he gets into a car accident and dies, and now she's, you know, has grieved him for like a couple of years or a few years, and then she moves into this new apartment and she meets this neighbor named Tyler, and her and Tyler start to befriend each other, and maybe they like to play video games with each other, that type of thing. And then all of a sudden they start having this connection. That would have made a better book. If you wanted to make it a romance, it would have been better if you like her first love died, but then at the end she has her happily ever after with Tyler. It would have made more sense. But no, let's do it the other way. And I'm like, honey, you're trying to be Nicholas Sparks at this point. I'm like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. So that's my review of it. Like I said, I definitely feel like it has sprinklings of women's fiction in it, but it is a romantic tragedy. It is. It's not a romance, you know, romantic tragedy. So yeah, for me, I will say going into it, I already knew what was going to happen, so that's why I ended up giving it a 3-star. Also, I feel like even without the tragic ending, if it would have had a happy ending at the end with her and her ex getting back together, I still would have gave the book a 3, mainly because the writing is not the best. She needs to get better at her craft, better at her writing. The storyline, the whole plot point was a bit like weak in my opinion. The character development, they moved way too quickly to get back together. I really wanted more of a stretch, you know, but because it was only like 3 hours long, it's basically like novella length. So yeah, I do feel like the author could have did something a lot better. Storyline, yes. Like I said, I already gave you a storyline. she could have went and did that, and it would have been so much better story. You know, there are plenty of romances I read where it's a second chance of woman finding love again. Like either she got cheated on, or her husband died, or boyfriend died, or whatever it is, or you know, they broke up and it was a hard breakup, or whatever it is. There's always those second chance loves that you can do, you know, of finding another person. And then also, like, sometimes you do have a second chance where it's like you get back together with your ex. Like, maybe he didn't cheat. Maybe it was something like, maybe it was some type of stupid miscommunication between the characters, you know, and they're finally back together again, and he's explaining or she's explaining what happened and why they broke up, you know, that type of thing. It would have been better with something like that, you know? So anyways, really stupid take on the author's part. I don't, you know, like, I was telling my husband this. I said, there's a difference between canceling someone versus holding them accountable for what they say. I'm trying to hold this person accountable for the things that they say, because you don't blame the readers because you mismarketed this book. It's your fault this book was mismarketed. It's on you, the author, for not properly marketing the book. That is entirely on you. So I will say, I hope that this author gets better and that she improves her skill, improves her writing. And if she wants to write a romance, just know it has to have a happily ever after. You can do different things in the book to make it different than other books, but ultimately at the end it has to have the same thing as other genre romances: a happily ever after or a happy for now. Like, you don't have to write in that they have babies and get married. Maybe they don't want to get married. Maybe they don't want babies. You could do that too. You know, you can change some things up in the genre itself, because other authors do that too. But the one thing that stays the same is the happily ever after, happy for now. That's the only thing that has to remain the same. Everything else can be completely different. So that's it for this video here. I just was like, are you kidding me, author? Seriously. So there's that. And I'm glad, I'll just say I'm glad I read it, because I'm like, I'd rather read it myself, especially when I'm like, well, it's on Kindle Unlimited. It's only a few hours long. I can get through it very fast. Let's see. So that's why I decided to do it. Otherwise, if I would have known it was a tragedy, I wouldn't have normally read it. And if I didn't know and I read that as a romance, I think I would have been even more pissed, and I would have gave it like a 1 or a 2, you know? But I knew beforehand going into it what to expect. So I'm just thankful that other reviewers were honest and said, hey, this is not an HEA. So yeah, that's it for this video here. Let me know down below how you feel about it. Oh, also, before I leave, I noticed the author also gave herself 5 stars for the book on her Goodreads. So there's that screenshot. I just thought that was funny, the fact that she's giving herself 5 stars. And I just think it's very, like, I don't know, cringe to give your own book 5 stars. And it's like, no, you're doing art. You're doing art. You cannot critique yourself and say that your art is fantastic, because that's your interpretation. You know, everyone else's subjective opinion is going to be different, you know? So yeah, that's it for this video here. Let me know down below what you think about this, and go from there. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and I'll see you all on the next video. All right, bye.